The lead masks case is one of Brazil's most intriguing and solved mysteries, involving the mysterious deaths of two men found on the Morro do Vintém hill in the city of Niterói, Rio de Janeiro, in 1966. The story is not only enigmatic due to the strange circumstances surrounding their deaths, but also because of the bizarre clues left behind. To fully understand the mystery, it is essential to dive deep into the details of the case, the investigation, and the possible theories that have emerged over time. Background: in August 1966, two men, Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viana, were found dead on a hilltop in Niterói, a city near Rio de Janeiro. The two men were known to be friends, both in their 30s, with Manuel being a 32-year-old electrical engineer and Miguel, a 34-year-old mechanic. They had been living in Niterói for some time, but their lives were unremarkable until the events that led to their mysterious deaths. Both men had been working on various projects and were interested in esoteric topics, including spiritualism and UFOs, which may have influenced their actions in the days leading to their deaths. Their deaths, however, would cast them into the annals of strange cases in Brazil, sparking a debate that continues to this day regarding the actual cause and circumstances. The discovery of the bodies in the morning of August 20, 1966. The bodies of the two men were discovered by a group of workers in a desolate area on the Morro do Vintém hill, a forested hill known for its remoteness. The men were dressed in dark suits and were lying on the ground, with no apparent signs of violence or struggle. The scene looked bizarre and unsettling for several reasons. First, the men were wearing lead masks, which was unusual because these were not typical clothing items. The masks were made of a material that appeared to be heavy and uncomfortable, suggesting they had been wearing them for some time. The men's bodies did not display any signs of injury, nor did they seem to have been victims of any violent crime. The second strange detail was the presence of a small briefcase found beside the bodies. Inside the briefcase were two items of interest: a notebook and a piece of paper with cryptic instructions. The notebook contained entries in which the men had mentioned their plans to carry out a mysterious task, though it was not entirely clear what they were referring to. The piece of paper contained a series of numerical sequences that appeared to be a code of some kind, but their meaning remained unclear. This was the first clue that something unusual had occurred. The lead mask's most famous and puzzling aspect of the case is the lead masks that the men were wearing. These masks were not typical items of clothing, especially for a pair of middle-aged men who were not involved in any theatrical performance or ritual. The fact that they were wearing such items, along with the eerie quality of the masks, led many to speculate about their purpose. The masks themselves were made of lead and were designed to cover the entire face, with eye holes for visibility. The material used for the masks was heavy, and their use would have been uncomfortable, if not painful. The masks appeared to have been placed intentionally, as there were no signs of struggle or distress in the men's appearance. But why had they chosen to wear them? The lead masks were later believed by some to have been intended as protective devices during some kind of spiritual or experimental ritual. The idea behind this theory was that the men had been attempting to protect themselves from some form of external energy, possibly linked to their interest in UFOs or spiritualism. Another theory suggested that they were part of a scientific experiment, with the masks serving as a way to shield their faces from harmful radiation or other forms of physical or mental interference. Despite various speculations, the lead masks never received a definitive explanation, and their purpose remains one of the central mysteries of the case. The briefcase and its contents. Briefcase found next to the bodies contained additional clues, though they too were perplexing. Inside the case was a notebook that contained a cryptic entry written by the two men. The entry was as follows: 1630, meeting with the entity. We will proceed with the instructions. We must not fail. The notebook entries seem to suggest that the two men had been involved in something that required precise instructions, possibly related to a meeting with an entity. This cryptic statement added fuel to the already speculative theories about the cause of their deaths. Some believe the entity could refer to a spiritual being or even an extraterrestrial force, reflecting the men's fascination with the supernatural and UFOs. Alongside the notebook was a piece of paper containing a series of numbers, which appeared to be part of a code. The sequence of numbers was 481631. This numerical sequence raised further questions, as it was not immediately clear what it referred to. Some theorized that the numbers had something to do with radio frequencies, as the men were known to be interested in radio transmissions, while others speculated that the sequence was related to some kind of spiritual or ritualistic code. Despite efforts to decode the numbers, they remained an unsolved part of the puzzle. The investigation into the deaths of the two men was conducted by local police, but they were unable to make any sense of the evidence they had gathered. There were no signs of forced entry or violence, and the cause of death was unclear. The men had no obvious injuries, and there were no signs of poisoning, though toxicology reports later showed that both men had high levels of barium in their systems, suggesting that they may have ingested or inhaled something toxic before their deaths. However, the levels of barium were not sufficient to indicate immediate poisoning. The police were also unable to determine the men's exact cause of death. The most likely theory was that they had died from a combination of exhaustion and exposure while attempting to carry out their mysterious task on the hill. However, the lead masks, the cryptic notes, and the strange circumstances of their deaths suggested that something far more unusual had occurred. Theories and speculations over the years. A variety of theories have emerged to explain the deaths of Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana. Some of the most notable include 1. Spiritual or occult ritual. Only theory that has persisted since the early days of the investigation is that the two men were involved in a spiritual or occult ritual. According to this theory, the men had been attempting to contact an entity or spiritual being, and the lead masks were used as a form of protection during the ritual. The barium found in their systems might have been used in the ritual process, and the numerical code could have been part of the instructions for the ceremony. 2. Experimentation with UFO. The theory suggests that the two men were attempting some form of UFO-related experiment. Given their interest in the paranormal and extraterrestrial life, it is possible that the men were trying to communicate with extraterrestrials. The lead masks might have been intended to shield their minds from some form of radiation or psychic energy emanating from a UFO. This theory has been fueled by the men's fascination with UFOs, but no direct evidence has ever linked their deaths to extraterrestrial activity. 3. Accidental deaths. Some have suggested that the deaths of the two men were accidental, resulting from a combination of exposure to toxins and poor planning. According to this theory, the men may have been conducting some kind of experiment involving barium or other chemicals, but they miscalculated the risks and accidentally poisoned themselves. The lead masks, in this case, might have been an attempt to shield themselves from the harmful effects of radiation or chemicals. 4. Murder or foul play. A less popular but still considered theory is that the men were the victims of murder or foul play. However, this theory has been largely discounted by investigators, as there were no signs of struggle or violence. The fact that the men were not robbed and that no signs of forced entry were found made this theory less likely. Nevertheless, some still believe that the deaths were part of a larger conspiracy. The lead masks case remains one of Brazil's most famous unsolved mysteries. The deaths of Manuel Pero de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana continue to be a subject of speculation and fascination. The bizarre circumstances, including the lead masks, the mysterious notes, and the unclear cause of death, have led to a variety of theories, from occult rituals to UFO experiments. Despite many years of investigation and numerous attempts to solve the case, the mystery remains unsolved, and the truth behind the deaths of these two men remains elusive. The case has captivated the imagination of many, and it serves as a reminder of the many mysteries that remain hidden in the world, waiting to be uncovered. Whether the deaths were the result of an accident, a spiritual ritual, or a more sinister plot, the lead masks case is a mystery that will continue to intrigue and baffle people for years to come.